Coming up next, Jane Wallace examines the day's pressing issues on Under Scrutiny. Then stick around for Back Chat, where we answer your pressing faxes, questions, and letters, right here on FX.
Presidential candidate Bob Dole unloads on Hollywood for movies and music and moral values that have gone straight into the gutter. That's Hollywood, so what else is new? Welcome to Under Scrutiny. Good evening, I'm Jane Wallace. Here's what's happening. Western allies have rejected talks with Bosnian Serbs over the release of over 300 UN peacekeepers held hostage. Bosnia was tense as the first civilian UN employee was detained by Bosnian Serbs, and food was growing scarce in the city. In Washington, Republican lawmakers called on President Clinton to consult Congress before committing any ground troops to Bosnia. President Clinton said yesterday he would be willing to bring troops ashore there under certain circumstances. A report has been released by environmental groups warning Americans about filthy drinking water. The report says 1 in 5 Americans unknowingly drinks water polluted with feces, lead, and other contaminants. New York City's water was reported to be the worst. Marilyn Monroe put her stamp on the world. Now the U.S. Postal Service is returning the favor. It is putting her on a stamp. The Marilyn Monroe stamp was issued today on what would have been her 69th birthday. And last night in Los Angeles, presidential hopeful Bob Dole unleashed a stinging attack on Hollywood and the recording industry. He denounced gangster rap music and movies that exploit sex and violence. A new line has been crossed, he said, not just of taste, but of human dignity and decency. Under Scrutiny tonight examines that blistering Dole attack. Dole's audience, of course, was middle America, voters, and his target, companies whose products are frequently under fire. Dole called movies like Natural Born Killers and True Romance nightmares of depravity. Dole said they are slashing the social fabric of the nation. He is angered at Hollywood's portrayals of sex and violence on the screen. Dole also attacked the popular music form known as gangsta rap, which often celebrates violence against police and features lyrics which are extremely offensive toward women. Such attacks against Hollywood are not new, of course, and are hardly unjustified. President Clinton blasted the same entertainment values in his last State of the Union address. Then there was Dan Quayle, who attacked Murphy Brown's celebrated Child with No Father in 1992. That was part of the Republican Family Values campaign. Politicians are not shy about going after Hollywood, especially in campaign years, but none support censorship, and only President Clinton is working with producers to do anything about it. Hollywood is a juicy, easy target, and a good campaign issue. Movies and music alone grossed almost $20 billion last year. That's money from entertainment consumers, you and me. Our question tonight, why are all of us supporting the entertainment industry if it is poisoning our minds and ruining our children? Joining us in Washington are Brent Bozell, well-known conservative voice and chairman of the Media Research Center, Ronald Brownstein, national political correspondent for the Los Angeles Times. And in New York, we will be joined by Professor Louis Cole, chairman of the film department at Columbia University. Brent Bozell, let me begin with you. Nightmares of depravity out of the dream factory. Do you think the criticism is legitimate?
Sure. Look, when Bob Dole and Bill Clinton can agree on anything, then you know it's legitimate. There is a growing feeling, Jane, that what's coming out of Hollywood is just not good stuff, which is ironic given that I think Hollywood has had a long and glorious history of promoting pretty good values throughout its history. But if you look in the last 20 years, last 10 years, the kind of values that have been promoted, the kind of gratuitous messages, the sex, the violence, that type of thing, you have to scratch your head and ask yourself, just how good is it? If you look at the numbers, by the time the average child graduates from 8th grade, he or she will have watched 100,000 acts of violence on television, 8,000 murders on television. You get those kind of numbers and you wonder why our society is so desensitized to violence.
Okay, sounds pretty good so far. Ronald Brownstein, do you agree that the criticism is justified?
Well, I think that, clearly one of the most important things that Bob Dole said in his speech last night was that this is a concern not only of a radical fringe. There is a large part of middle America that feels that their values are being assaulted by the pop culture or aspects of the pop culture. I think what we really have to do is disaggregate here. You know, you're looking at a television industry, a movie industry, and a recording industry. I think what Brent said is a little bit behind the curve. Clearly there are things out of Hollywood that many people feel are sort of out of mainstream values and are sending the wrong messages to kids. But you know, for the last half decade or so, there's been a succession of movies, and certainly the leading television shows that celebrate family, that celebrate rearing children, that sort of really put into place what Dan Quayle would have called family values. And I think that, you know, you've got many things going on at once. And Dole, I think, to a greater degree than is recognized, you know, sort of mentioned that in his speech. He talked about the fact that the biggest grossing movies of this year are things like Forrest Gump, that and The Lion King. I mean, there is an audience out there. Hollywood is primarily and has been throughout its history driven much more by trying to attract that audience by ideological agenda of any sort. And while there's a problem, you have to sort of, I think you have to, you know, you have to sort of put into place the fact that you're dealing with many things at once.
Okay. Now, Brent Pozell, Bob Dole went further than either of you have. He said, we have reached the point where our popular culture threatens to undermine our character as a nation. Do you see it as that dire?
When I look at some of the programming on television, when you listen to the lyrics of Cop Killer, Sister Soldiers type of rap music, and you have to scratch your head, Jane. You have to ask yourself, how can a society countenance something like this? It's not just Ice-T. It is the people who produce the Ice-T records, and it's the market that buys the Ice-T records. We have to ask ourselves, as a society, what in the world has gotten into us? Think about this, Jane. Snoop became the #1 seller of rap music the day his first album was released. What was Snoop Doggy Dogg's claim to fame that would make him the #1 seller the moment his rap song was released? It was that he was indicted murder. He was on trial for murder.
Okay, so you're
There's
saying
something wrong with our society.
that celebrates, perverse values at best. The question in my mind is whether Hollywood, the music industry, the television industry are actually leading the masses or following them. I think that, as Ronald Brownstein mentioned earlier, there's a good case to be made that the only thing they worship in Hollywood is the buck. And if people buy this, which they clearly do, or it would not be profitable and it would not be produced, is then the manufacturer to blame?
Well, they're neither leading nor they're following, Jane. Look, the argument out of Hollywood is that there's a market out there. We're simply feeding the market. But here's the problem with that. There's a market for anything. If you put Penthouse on Saturday morning, you would find children watching it. There's a market for anything. Just because there's a market for something doesn't make it a good thing for Hollywood to do. So the fact that they're feeding all these markets out there is something that they have to ask themselves, are they doing a good job? I don't think they are.
Well,
now,
okay, but
nobody wants censorship.
Are morals really supposed to be part of the job of that industry? I mean, they're commercial.
Well,
they're out to make a buck. Ronald?
Yeah, ultimately, I do think they are. I mean, I think that, you know, this is to have in any society, to have a public voice is to have power, and I think people have to be more responsible with their public voice. I mean, the problem with Bob Dole's speech is I think that most people would find very little to object in the content and the context of the speech, in the four corners of the speech. It's really what's not in there, what's left out of there. As you suggested in your introduction, an awful lot of what he has said, Bill Clinton has said over the last few years. In fact, I was with Bill Clinton the week of Dan Quayle's speech, and he made remarks not dissimilar to what Dole said yesterday. The problem is that, you know, Hollywood and Hollywood's impact on the coarsening of our society is hardly the only such impact. I mean, you have talk radio, you have a very vitriolic political debate, you have the issue of guns and violence. I mean, Bob Dole has spent the last several months opposing gun control. He's sort of in the position today of saying guns don't kill people, movies do.
Well,
so I think that you know, what you're really looking for, what we really ought to be looking for in society is a balanced debate. And I think Dole, I do not think that what Dole said yesterday was extreme in any way, but I do think that he sort of diluted or undercut his message by focusing it solely on a purely, you know, an institution that's seen as largely liberal and largely democratic. There really is a broader indictment to be made about the way that culture, the entire way that we're dealing with the transmission of cultural values in this society.
Okay. Now, when we come back, gentlemen, we've got to take a commercial break. I want to pick up on part of what you're saying, Ronald Brownstein, the hypocrisy involved, some say for Bob Dole, and the hypocrisy involved, many say for Hollywood. We'll be right back.
At FX, we know who's in charge. You are. And we've got back chat to prove it. Just listen.
We like playing war games while watching
I
FX.
love the FX apartment.
I sleep over.
Thank you for a network just for me.
You guys screw up a lot.
Domo arigato gozaimasu.
How much chat would a back chat chat?
Impression.
God, I love this channel.
That's the sweet sound of you, our boss, speaking your mind. So fire up your faxes, sharpen your pencils, and pick up your phones. We're ready to take a meeting. Back chat, conversation you can count on. Weeknights at 7:30, 6:30 Central on FX.
Happy birthday, FX.
We're back. We're talking about presidential candidate Bob Dole's attacks on Hollywood. And there are many observers who smell a little hypocrisy on both sides of this. Hollywood, hypocritical about its own power, and Dole, hypocritical to the extent that he's helping to kill public television and positive forms, so-called positive forms of entertainment, and at the same time whipping Hollywood because it's a convenient whipping boy in an election campaign, which this is starting to be. Professor Lewis Cole has finally joined us, thank goodness, and I want to know where you stand on this.
I mean, I thought it was a completely cynical attack on the part of Dole. Hollywood is a democratic community. It gives its money. Time Warner is known as a democratic institution. It gives lots of money to the Democratic Party. To single it out was completely cynical on his part, especially because one of the films, it was interesting, he didn't evidently see the films that he had attacked, and it would have been good for him if he had, because True Lies is the story of a hired hitman who goes around killing people for money, albeit for the government, and who thinks that it's morally right to sexually humiliate his wife by pretending to be a man whom he's not and having her strip and grind for him.
Oh, and this is one of the movies Dole praised.
This is one of the movies that Dole praised as it was very good for family values. Now, it's also interesting to me, now, why did he take that movie in particular? I mean,
what did it have something to do with Arnold Schwarzenegger's party affiliation?
Well, that could be, and how about that it's also one of the films that was done by Fox Studios, which is a Murdoch company. I realize that
so is this, yes.
I understand, but it was interesting to me that he made that, you know, so one, he should know a little bit more about what he's talking about. Two, if the attacks are going to be made, let them be across the board. Natural Born Killers, which was a very violent film, etc., was in fact a satire on the sensationalization of violence by the media. You could use that film to defend what it is that he's saying.
Okay, Ronald Brownstein, dive back in.
I think that those points are well taken. I think that the reverse is true, though, as well. You know, in Hollywood, there exists an organization called the Environmental Media Association, whose purpose it is to insert pro-environment messages into movies. The assumption being that putting a message about a political point into a movie carries political force and carries a cultural force in the society. You know, in Lethal Weapon 2, there was a great deal of satisfaction in Hollywood because there's one moment where Danny Glover's daughter talks about ask him not to eat tuna because the catching of it kills dolphins. The assumption in Hollywood is that 1 minute has an impact on the society and the culture, and the other 90 minutes of assault weapon fire has none. I mean, ultimately it's an untenable position. Really, I think people in Hollywood, many of them increasingly do recognize that even if some of these attacks are cynical, as Professor Cole suggested, that they do have some responsibility. I mean, this is a vast medium. It is a vast megaphone. It is probably the biggest megaphone in the world. And really, before you shout into something that large, you should sit, maybe count to 10, and think about what you're putting through it.
Okay, Brent Bozell, dive in here before the professor gets
Ron
back.
makes an interesting point about that movie. In the movie that he mentioned, there's also a locker room where there is a bumper sticker on the police locker that says, "Fur is dead." Only in Hollywood would you have a police department with a "Fur is dead" bumper sticker on there. Anyway, having said that, only this professor and Oliver Stone say that Natural Born Killers is a parody on violence. That is, I hate to say that, but that's a silly statement. Nobody believes that statement. Jane,
well,
you're
actually,
wrong.
no. Actually, friends who've seen the movie actually believed it, but I think it may have gone over people's heads.
Jane, well, yeah, it escaped everybody, only the brilliant. Jane, you were wrong in your introduction when you said that Bob Dole wants to kill public television. No, he doesn't. Bob Dole wants to eliminate public funding of public television, and the argument is that it can continue perfectly well without federal funding. I got to correct those things.
Okay,
Look,
but then you're asking for the free market for public television, and you're asking for Hollywood to rein itself in from free market impulses, which is to go out there and make that money no matter who you exploit.
See, Jane, here's the problem with that thinking. Hollywood is of the belief that you've got to have sex, you've got to have violence, you've got to have gratuitous language in order for it to be successful, which is why year after year they come out with so many R-rated movies.
But Brent, is
look
that
at
really the
numbers.
belief in Hollywood?
Look at
I mean, if
Forrest
you look
Gump.
Hang on, Ron, we'll get there.
Look at Forrest Gump. Look at that movie. Look how successful it was. The Lion King. So
No,
many others.
these are people
They
that
make
read a
money. You
bottom
don't have to
line
do
better than
that.
they read the front page of a paper. Ronald Brownstein.
But isn't that the point, really, is that if there is an indictment of Hollywood, I think that Dole is making, it's much too broad brush. I mean, Hollywood is doing many things at once. There's clearly been an upsurge over the last several years of films and TV shows that by anybody's imagination would qualify as family-friendly and family-affirming. And to suggest that all of Hollywood is true romance or natural-born killers. It's interesting, by the way, that he did not take on Pulp Fiction, which would have been the obvious target, and I'm sort of intrigued as to why. To suggest that that is all of Hollywood and that, you know, all of this other stuff is not going on, I think is just really, in that sense, looking for a whipping
but I
boy.
also would posit that it's very easy to blame Hollywood because there's clearly a lot of trash that comes out of there. There's trash TV shows. They're like Mexican movie trailers where, you know, 50 people are killed in a minute, and, you know, can you take more blood than that? The violence against women on television, I find horrible. I can't watch more women as victims. But, nonetheless, I have a choice not to watch. And I wonder what Bob Dole, in not proposing to do anything about any of this, if he isn't just taking it out on Hollywood, because it's a lot harder to deal with the disintegration of the family and the guns in the inner city and the real warfare on the streets. Go ahead, Professor.
No, I think that that's exactly the point. I mean, if I'm looking at the top films of the grosses, you know, True Lies, Clear and Present Danger, Speed, Maverick, Interview with a Vampire. These are all making over $100 million apiece. I mean, people are paying money to go see them. And the fact is that they also come out with films that are, you know, whether it's The Lion King, etc. Though even there, I mean, it's much more of a preoccupation. Hollywood thinks that these things sell because they sell. I mean, The Lion King, adults went to it, kids went to it, etc. These things make money because people want to see them. To say that it is somehow some kind of massive conspiracy on the part of a couple of studio executives to rip apart the moral fabric of the nation is completely absurd. And I think one of the things that it's interesting that he doesn't talk about is the presentation of people in these films. I mean, your point is well taken. The misogyny in a film like True Lies is much more of an attack upon the social fabric of a nation than, you know, the using dirty language.
Okay,
I mean,
but even then
the other thing is this, that we're also, you know, Mark Twain, Huckleberry Finn, was a book that is still being banned. Hemingway used four-letter words. Ulysses is banned. There is a legitimate demand that art makes to explore different areas of experience. Now, I think gangster rap can have very awful lyrics in it, but at the same time, there is certain legitimate demand that art says that let us talk about what is happening out there.
Okay, we're going to leave it there for the moment. We got to take another commercial break since we're in business for a buck, and we'll be right back.
Some who write, call, or fax us at Backchat ask, what does the E in email stand for? Eddie. Backchat, conversation you can count on. Weeknights on FX.
You're invited to a very special birthday.
FX, the world's first living television network, is celebrating its first birthday.
They won't sing birthday songs, will they, sir?
You better believe we will. We'll be whooping it up all day and night in the apartment. We'll be celebrating during all your favorite FX shows.
I like birthdays more than anything.
So, put on your party duds, because it won't be a party without you.
It's FX's first birthday bash, all day and night, today.
We're talking about Bob Dole's attacks on Hollywood, whether Hollywood's really the problem, whether you really should curb artistic expression, or what kind of dreck these guys would churn out if they thought they were making moral movies. Brent Bozell, when we left off, the professor was talking about artistic expression, and the truth is, as much as I find gangster rap appalling and quite offensive to a number of people, it is sort of a rage vent. I mean, there are real emotions being expressed there that real people feel, and that's part of the reason they buy these records.
Well, Gene, look, we all are agreed that nobody wants to see censorship. That's one extreme. The other extreme is uncontrolled, quote-unquote, art. In the name of art, we do what we feel like doing, and we justify it because of, quote-unquote, expression and the need to express. an album like Cop Killer, the programming of a rap star like Sister Souljah, did nothing but advocate the killing of cops. Now, you cannot, you simply cannot, in the name of sanity, in the name of logic and reason, say that artistic expression supersedes that. There has to come a point where the industry, and the industry, by that I mean the Time Warners that sponsor this, by this I mean the Ice-T's who put it out, the stores that sell it, and the public that buys it.
Okay, but the truth is we do have multiple mediums here. We've got television, which does sort of invade the home in a sense, and kids do have access to it. You have movies. No one forces you to go see the movies.
Jane,
no one
that argument is dead
forces you
wrong.
to buy a record.
That argument is dead wrong. Let me tell you why. I cannot stand the argument that people put forward. If you don't like it, change the channel. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Look, television ought not to be the enemy of the family. It never was before now. Why is it the enemy? Why can't it do good things? It always has done good things.
One of my questions is if they set out to do good things, if they're going to produce worse dreck in their own way. Go ahead, Professor.
You know, this thing with the family is interesting. Did you happen to see True Romance? True Romance is about the creation of a nuclear family. It's about a boy who meets a girl who loves him very much. He loves her. There are a bunch of thieves out there. They want to kill the two of them. They have to run off to Los Angeles to escape all these people. And they do, and it ends up with a picture of a man and a wife and a child together, in love, married. Now, that's a nuclear...
But there was some bloodshed.
Yeah, that's right. But why does he knock it? The fact of the matter is, you cannot make these... Once you start making these kind of distinctions and saying what is right, what isn't right, etc., you're talking another kind of agenda. It's a political agenda. If you want to do something about the family, see that people don't have to have two full-time jobs, a husband and a wife, so that they're out of the house all day, and so that the kids don't have any parental supervision. Make jobs more, pay more. Do things, have better daycare after school. They're real things you can do to help the family. Why don't you put them on their agenda? Why doesn't Bob Dole, instead of going after Hollywood? It's cynical and it's dumb.
Go ahead, Brent Bazell. Well, we'll let Ronald Brownstein in here, and then we'll let you respond
the problem
to that.
The problem with this conversation is assuming the assumption this has to be an either-or proposition. Really, there's no reason why we shouldn't talk about both. I mean, what the professor just said is absolutely right. As I go around the country, you talk to families, they feel their primary stress is time. Time because of economic strain, because both parents are working, because no one's in the house to watch the kids, to raise the kids, to sort of monitor the kids. And as a result, though, they feel themselves under siege, in many cases, from the popular culture. That the popular culture, as Brent Brazell said, is an enemy in the effort of trying to raise their kids. There's no reason we shouldn't talk about making it easier for families to spend more time with their kids with the kinds of policies that the professor talked about, but there's also no reason why we should ignore the fact that there are many mainstream people in America who feel themselves under siege from the popular culture.
Oh, absolutely.
What would you like to do about it?
Both are legitimate points of debate.
No, I agree with you, but what do you propose to do about it? Because one is a matter of policy and the other is a matter of commerce.
Brent Bazell gets 10 seconds now, guys. I gotta let him respond.
By the time the average child is graduated from high school, he will have spent more time in front of a television than in front of a teacher. Television, the industry, has a responsibility to do good things. It's as simple as that, and there's nothing political in that statement.
Okay.
That wasn't
Allegedly.
Dole's statement.
That wasn't the end of the show, at least. Thanks to tonight's guests, Brent Bazell,
Thank you.
Ronald Brownstein in Washington, and Professor Lewis Cole here in New York. Be right back.
There's fresh daily.
Yeah, sure. That bread was just baked yesterday.
And there's fresh daily. Breakfast time, every morning only on FX.
Hi, I'm Chase, and I'm somewhere finding out why everybody's talking about FX.
It's an interesting channel. It has a variety of things.
A lot of old stuff and a lot of new stuff.
Varied programs, wonderful people.
Batman, Green Hornet. Back Chat.
Okay. Back Chat, yes.
Back Chat.
I like the one where the man had the toys and the collectible lunch pail.
Have everything for everyone.
Keep flipping until you get to FX. There's a little thing right in the corner that says FX.
I would say watch it in color.
Oh, wait, gotta go back. FX, it's out there.
That's it for Under Scrutiny this Thursday night. Thank you very much for joining us. Tune in again tomorrow. We're going to look as California starts to dismantle affirmative action. We'll see you then.
I'm standing in traffic.